The Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom through investing in real estate. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life you love. I'm your co-host, Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future.
And I'm Melissa Baker, real estate investor and fitness coach specializing in turning properties from drab to fab. I'm here to help motivate and inspire you to build your dream life because, girl, you deserve it. Hello, beautiful. Welcome back to the Without Fear of Her Future podcast. Today, we're talking about something that gets glamorized on Instagram, oversimplified on YouTube, and misunderstood by a lot of new investors. Owning an Airbnb. Airbnb investing is everywhere, but the highlight reel doesn't tell the whole story. In this episode, we break down the real behind-the-scenes truth of owning an Airbnb, specifically for women investors who want to sustain cash flow and not burnout. From regulations and market research to systems, team building, and the mistakes most new hosts make in running a short-term rental like a business. So whether you're an Airbnb curious person or already hosting, this episode will help you decide if this strategy truly fits your goals, lifestyle, and season of life.
Woohoo! I love talking about what an Airbnb really is, and I like to call it now and later money.
Yes.
Now and later money. That now money is your monthly cash flow. This is money that you can spend. You know, you can either take a vacation, pay a bill, whatever it is. Every single month, you're making some cash flow. That later money is because you have an asset that's appreciating.
Right.
The loan is being paid down. You've got equity in that. You're getting the tax benefits. So there's 5 streams of income through owning short-term rentals. And so that's that later money, that retirement money. Also, what you can pass down to your children,
Right.
your children's children. So I love the whole short-term rental. Airbnb is just one platform. It could be VRBO. There's all kinds of different platforms, but those are the two most popular here in America.
But it's not necessarily passive income, let's be honest.
It's not completely passive, although one of the things that we're really going to talk about is it's vital for you to have a property management company.
Yes.
Even with the property management company, it's not quite as passive as a regular rental, but it's still worth it. So if you are somebody that just says, I absolutely am looking for something with complete hands off, I never want to deal with it, then a short-term rental is probably not for you.
Right.
However, if you're looking for something that will take very little, and it's all about how you set it up, and your property management company, and you having the right housekeeper and the right handyman, if you have those things set in place, which we're going to talk a little more about, that is what will make it a lot more passive and a lot more doable.
So if you don't like solving problems quickly or managing people in systems, responding to messages, handling surprises, this is not for you.
Yeah. And so I always just like to be completely, honest about it. It's very, very different. Think about when you have a regular traditional rental. You set somebody else up, they sign a contract and they're in it for at least 6 months, at least, maybe to a year, and you deal with a few phone calls. But when you have a short-term rental, every single day or 2 or 3, you have somebody checking out, somebody new checking in. And so they have questions. They have all the things. So depending on your property management company, again, your housekeeper, and a very hands-on handy person, if you have that set in place, then you can have a way more hands-off. If you don't have that set in place, girl, you got yourself a job.
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
Constant.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning on the how-tos, kind of step-by-step with Airbnb. And let's start with how and where to buy. Market selection obviously comes first. So let's talk about
this for a minute. Well, the first thing that you would want to know, obviously, is that we are buying these properties as an investment property.
Yes.
And so we're looking for off-market properties, the same way that we teach to buy rentals or even flips or wholesale deals. We're looking for off-market deals using that golden formula. 70% of the ARV minus repair. You want to make sure that it meets the 1% rule.
Yes. Talk about that for just a second, because of our listeners who don't know what that is.
The 1% rule is that you need this property to rent out for 1% of what you put into that property. So again, if you bought the property for $100,000, you need to know that it's going to rent for $1,000 a month.
Yep.
If you buy it, for $200,000, you need to know that it's going to rent out for $2,000 a month. And you want it to be able to rent out that much on a traditional rental.
Right.
Now, you will make more money on an Airbnb. However, I don't like to calculate that. I want it to meet the 1% rule as if I was going to do a traditional rental, because what if it doesn't work out as an Airbnb? What if it gets banned in that area? What if something happens and you need to switch it over? I want to be able to know that I switch it over and I'm still going to make money and not lose money.
Sure.
So that's the first thing.
And that you just touched on something that's really important, and we're seeing a lot more of this pop up where either HOAs or certain cities, neighborhoods are banning Airbnbs. So one of the first things if you're looking to do an Airbnb, before you even start looking for those off-market properties, you want to make sure that you're in an area that allows them.
That's so when I'm looking for, I don't really set out to look for a particular Airbnb property. I just do, I'm just looking for an investment property.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when I get that property, the first thing I'm going to think about is the location. Because location is everything with a short-term rental. And is it a good location? It needs to be within 20 to 30 minutes of something that's drawing people in on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be near a lake or a tourist area. Or, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, pretty much any place in the DFW works as a short-term rental, because people are flooding into this area to come to seminars, to watch the Cowboys or the Mavericks, or to come to the Six Flags, or there's just so much going on here that pretty much anything works. But if you're out in a little rural area out in the middle of nowhere and there's not anything that's drawing people in on a regular basis, probably not the best idea. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Like, okay, does it make sense for this to is it in the right location to be a successful short-term rental? Then the next thing I'm going to do is exactly what you said. I need to see if it's been banned. Is it in an HOA area that's banned it? Is the city banned it? Is the county banned? And if not, and I don't want you just to rule them out. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, short-term rentals are no more. And I don't believe that at all. People still like to stay in a short-term rental.
They do.
Yeah, they're a little harder to find because a lot of places have banned them. Just look for places that hasn't. And so if it's in the right location, it hasn't been banned, then there you go. Those are the first two things you want to look at.
Okay. And then we want to look at the numbers to see, once you have the property, deciding if having a short-term rental, if the numbers make sense. So let's talk about the numbers.
Okay, so the first number I'm going to look at is, does it make the 1% rule as if it were a traditional? If that's the case, now I want to dig deeper. I want to find out, it's really running comps, just like you would on anything else. I want to find out, I'm going to look at other short-term rentals in that particular area, and are they booking up? And you want to see that all the other ones are booking up at least 50% occupancy.
Now, how do you look at that?
Well, there's several different ways. There's something called AirDNA.
Okay.
That's a platform that you can purchase, but I'm going to tell you my secret. I use Evolve. Okay. Evolve is my property management company. I'm not selling that company. I don't make anything by sharing that company. It's the only company I've used. There's lots of other ones, and there may be other ones out there that's better. This is just the one that I've used from day one. And I pay them 10% right off the top for them to be my property management company. We can talk more about what they do. But one of the things they do is I can give them a call. And I can say, hey, I've got this property at 123 Main Street, and I'm considering making it an Airbnb. And they will run the numbers for me. They'll say, well, there's 4 more in this area, and this is what they rent for. And they usually rent out, they'll tell me they usually rent for this much money, for they're getting at least 50% occupancy or not. They know that they're not going to make any money off of it. So they're very honest, and they're going to say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. This is not going to make you very much money.
I like that secret.
makes it, I love that, yeah. What else you want to know?
Okay, we got the numbers. So for an Airbnb, is there a formula? Like, how do you, because, like you said, meets the 1% rule, the occupancy rate. How often, if they say it's, that area has some Airbnbs, but they're, rented 30% of the time.
Okay, I want my property, in order to know that I'm going to be successful, I want it to rent at least 50% occupancy,
Okay.
which would mean at least 15 nights a month. And you don't ever expect an Airbnb to be rented 30 days a week. A month, because most times it's on weekends. Your Thursday through Sunday is the typical time.
Right, the weekend.
Now, every once in a while, somebody's going to rent your place for 2 weeks, or even for a month, or even they could even rent it for 2 or 3 months. But typically, a short-term rental is being rented from 2 to 4 nights. And so, if I can look at other short-term rentals in the area and they are booked up at least 50% of the time, then I'm like, okay, this is probably going to make sense.
Okay.
So
Now, is that 50% each month, or is that based on, because we've got the prime seasons, right? If you've got a lake property, obviously the summertime you might be booked out 75-80% of the time, and in the wintertime it might fall down to 30%.
That's a fantastic question. Because there are some places that are going to be very seasonal. I like to stay a little away from seasonal. Because unless you're ready and you're going to really think that maybe you might go 3 or 4 months in the winter, say, if it's on the beach, that it doesn't get rented out much at all. But you're going to make up for that in the summer.
Right.
You just have to know that going in, and if you're good with
Keep reserves.
Keep reserves. Other ones, it may be the opposite. You may have it may be booked up more in the winter and less in the summer, just depending on location and all that's surrounded and what all the amenities are. But yeah, just going in, knowing, and just be very, very careful if it's seasonal, that you are aware that there's going to be a few months that it's going to be.
What are some other fees that we need to plan for with our Airbnb? So we take into account 50% occupancy.
Well, I pay Evolve, that property management company, anywhere from 10 to 12% right off the top.
Okay.
It's 10% for the basic plan. It can go up if you want to add some extra things to that. But so that's another fee right off the top. And then there is also, obviously, you need to have it completely, you have to have all your utilities on, versus, again, with a traditional rental, the tenant is usually going to do that. But you need electric, water, gas, you need internet, you want some kind of cable or, satellite something. Then there's going to be yard maintenance. If there's pool, there's going to be pool maintenance. And then housekeepers, you're going to be sending housekeepers in every time your guests leave. So you just need to be thinking about all of those things.
Okay. So now let's switch gears to the fun side of owning an Airbnb, the design. Let's talk about the design.
Well, we have found some expertise in having boutique short-term rentals. So what is that? If you've ever stayed at a boutique hotel, it's just a little fancier. I mean, it's not really high end. It doesn't, but it's just something that offers you something a little more special, a little unique. It can be fun. And there's a million ways to make something boutique-ish. You can do a theme.
Okay.
I see a lot of themes, especially if you're near Disney. They'll have a princess-themed short-term rental. There'll be, in Nashville, there's lots of themed, maybe with country and western stars or music. And I stayed in one where there was a Reba room and a Dolly Parton room. And even on the beach, I stayed in one with some girlfriends one time, and it was just all pink and girly. So you can, so I am all about themes, but you also have to be very, very careful with the theme. You wouldn't want to do a Disney theme short-term rental works near Disney.
Right.
But I really wouldn't recommend that here in Dallas.
Sure.
Because even though it's going to get booked up a few times, not everybody's coming to bring their daughters and that's not what they want.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. I've seen some weird things, and maybe this isn't weird to you, but Star Wars themed, and that might work in a particular place, but there's not that many people that are going to want to stay in a Star Wars themed just right here in Dallas area.
Exactly.
So be careful. Just because you love something doesn't mean you want to make sure that you are bringing on the masses.
Mm-hmm.
The masses have to like this. So be
Exactly.
careful. So I don't go with those kinds of themes, but I love like fun, funky colors, just a very warm vibe versus just a traditional short-term rental where it's just traditional, because people are looking at pictures when they're choosing. And you want, when they are looking at pictures, you want them to go, oh my gosh, that's so cute. I want to stay there. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's what and again, you have to be careful because some people are just naturally good at this, and some people, have a little bit of an odd, inclination. And I just feel like I need to warn that because I have definitely seen some odd things out there.
So while you're saying that, let's just tell our story real quick. We have one of the best probably Airbnb stories.
Yes, we do.
That there is about, oh gosh, when was that? About 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We went out to Kentucky for.
No, we were in Oklahoma, weren't we? Too.
Oh, we were at the concert. This wasn't the revival. This was. You're right. We went to the concert in Oklahoma, and we had 2 other girlfriends with us. And we got an Airbnb for the night. And we didn't get into Oklahoma in time to go to the Airbnb first. So we went straight to the concert and had a wonderful evening at the concert. And then we went to our Airbnb.
Yes. And I have to say, I think I'm the one that booked it. It wasn't my finest moment. But what's so crazy about this particular Airbnb, we're going to give you some details, but
The pictures were good.
The pictures look good, and there was no bad reviews, which I don't know how that was the case. But so we embark on this house around 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
Pitch dark in an area that we don't know.
Yep.
In a not so fabulous neighborhood. It wasn't horrible.
It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the best. And I remember pulling up. We went to the back of the house. That was the instructions, and there was 2 doors to choose from. And I remember one of them was actually hanging on one hinge.
It was ajar.
That wasn't the door we were supposed to use, so we used the other door.
I don't remember what month it was, but I'll say this: it wasn't December, but there were some old Christmas lights that looked like they.
I want to say it was February. It was cold.
Yeah,
it was chilly out.
Some old few.
So
Christmas lights left hanging here
we
and
walk
there
in.
the trees.
Yep. So we get in the house, and
First of all, we have to go any, mini, miny, mo. What door are we going to go through? The one that's
we chose not the broken one. Yeah. So we get in the house, and not terrible upon first glance. We start looking around. I think it was when we went upstairs.
Well, it was before we went upstairs because first of all, we started noticing the decor was a little lots of snakes, and there was a Frankenstein, and there was
some weird stuff.
Some very weird.
One of the girls sat down on a chair and went to move the pillow because it wasn't just right, and there was a shirt under the pillow.
Yes, all wadded up that had been left there.
Yes. So we're like, okay, it hadn't been cleaned that great. We start looking around.
There's doors everywhere.
Lots
this
of
house
doors.
is huge. It's like 8 rooms. There's some lights are on, some lights are off.
Right.
And then we hear
something.
So
we wander upstairs, and it was a house that had a staircase that kind of came up from the front door and up from the back door. So it had these 2 staircases that came up and met on the landing on the 2nd floor. So we went up the back steps, and when we got to the top, the doors were closed, but we could see lights from one underneath. And they had numbers or letters on them, like A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3, I can't remember. And they were closed, so we weren't really sure if we rented the whole house.
I know. We're like, is there somebody in
bedroom?
Because there was a TV on in
Yes,
one
we
of the
could hear.
rooms. We could hear the TV, and we're like, is there somebody in there? Do we knock on this door? What do we do? But do you remember also on the stairwell there was a bride's veil, and some white dress shoes.
Yes.
That were just laying.
Yes.
In the floor,
Those were done by the front door. That was open, by the way.
When we runaway bride, just left them.
Yes. So we start opening doors to just see if there's anyone else in the house with us. We are.
We're holding hands and we're thinking, is somebody going to be
We're praying. We're praying a little bit. So we do open the doors. One of the rooms had a big neon sign in it, which was what was like. One of the rooms had the TV on, and it had a door out to the upstairs balcony that was wide open.
Yeah.
Not unlocked open. I'm talking wide open. And then, so as we're making our way, kind of deciding that this might not be where we want to stay the night, we go back down the front steps. That's when we saw the veil and the shoes, and the front door was wide open. So we quickly decided this was not the place for us.
We nicknamed that place the Scare B&B. The Scare
because we were scared. It was very creepy.
So we had to get online really quickly and find another place to go. So that was so funny.
So what not to do. So pictures are important, but don't make your pictures look not like what it really is. And know who's coming in and out and taking care of your property to make sure that it's being managed, because something was going on with the management there, because that one was definitely not ready for us by any means.
It was not a boutique rental for sure.
Boutique.
Anyway, just a little off note.
Yes.
What not to do.
What not to do. But on the other hand, we've had some great experiences at other Airbnbs.
I love to stay at Airbnbs. If I have a choice versus a hotel or Airbnb, unless I'm speaking at an event in that hotel, I'd much rather stay at a short-term rental.
I've been at some really fun ones. I stayed in Nashville. I've stayed at a couple in Nashville with my sisters and then some friends on trip, and there was some really nice extras, I guess, that just made you feel little extra pillows on the bed that made it feel more warm and welcoming. Each room looked just a little bit different, so they were nice. They had made the most of the spaces. I'm trying to remember what else. I think one of them might have had a bottle of champagne or something waiting for us with a sweet welcome note. Just little touches like that really made a big difference.
Yeah. And the thing is if you're traveling with family or friends, it's so much more fun to stay in a big house together versus everybody having their own room.
Yes.
Another thing that makes ours boutique-ish is we have decided that we really don't need a garage. People are just coming and staying as long as there's ample parking. So we turn the garages into a bunk room.
Oh, I love that.
And so now they're built in with our contractors. They're not just cheap Costco bunk beds that we throw in a room. That's not boutique-ish, but well built, very cute, and they're all queen size, so that two adults could stay in the bunk beds. And so for that reason, we tend to draw in a lot of bachelor and bachelorette parties.
Some bigger parties,
groups, maybe little teams that are traveling. A cheerleading team that's coming for competition, a little baseball team that's coming to Dallas for something. So it's great for birthday parties,
family reunions.
Awesome. And those have helped us both keep them booked up more than an average short-term rental, and we're able to charge more because we can sleep more.
Sure.
And so if we put two sets of bunk beds, that sleeps an additional 8 people. So if you just have a regular 3-bedroom that would sleep 6, you add this bunk room, and now you can sleep, 12 to 14 people.
So if you have a garage in your property that you're purchasing for an Airbnb, to convert it into a bedroom is super smart. Okay, I love that. So let's jump really quick to some systems that you have in place. You said you use Evolve. They take care of most things for you, because I know you, and you're not one to be answering the phone at 1 or 2 in the morning because the toilet's clogged or something's happening. The air conditioner won't work. So tell me what is the best way as far as management companies, how to find one? What do you look for if you don't have one?
Well, first of all, like I said, there's a lot of new companies out there. So do a Google search. Always read the reviews. But what a property management company, a good property manager, you want to find out what they do cover. But the number one thing is that they will market your property for you. So they place your property on all the platforms.
Okay.
VRBO, Flipkey, Airbnb, Second Booking, all of these different platforms, so that anybody that's searching your house will pop up.
Okay.
So they do all the marketing for you, and then you book through them. So they're going to take the booking. They're going to handle all of the correspondence with the guests, tell them check in and all the details and all the rules. And then they're also going to contact the housekeeper that I've chosen.
Okay.
I choose my own housekeeper. I teach them what I want them to do, walk them through and all that. And then I give that information to my property management company. So they now correspond. I don't have to know when guests are even checking in or checking out. They correspond all of that with my housekeeper. I also have a very, very hands-on, responsible, handy person, handyman or woman that can, at a moment's time, if my guest checks in and something's not working, they can simply call. Again, they are not calling me. They're calling my handy person. And so we have it set up. If my handy person can get out there and fix this problem under $500, he just fixes it and notifies me and sends me a receipt and lets me know what's going on. If it's over $500, then he's going to give me a call and say, hey, what do you want to do about this?
Okay.
Same thing with my housekeeper. You know, if it's something that she can take care of, then maybe they need extra towels. Then she goes and handles all of that, and I don't have to do that. I want to just say this also about my housekeeper. When she goes in, I have a checklist on a cabinet hidden away that says everything that needs to be refilled, everything that needs to be done. So she can just quickly look at that and say, oh, go grab some extra shampoo for the second bath, and we need new trash bags or whatever needs to be redone. Also, I have her look at the towels. Do we need to replace some of the towels? Do we need to replace the comforter in, one of the bedrooms?
Okay.
She just goes and does that, and again, sends me a picture and says, hey, there was wine stain on this. I replaced it. Sends me the receipt.
Okay.
The more you have someone like that can handle it for you, the more hands-off that you can be. If you don't have
That's
that
nice.
and you're handling all that yourself, it's a job.
Right. Okay. So that's a good property management company. They take the one that even your people, your cleaning lady, your maintenance person.
My property management company, my handyman, and my housekeeper work very, very close together, and they're handling all of my things for me. And then the property management company also handles cancellations or refunds or any of those things. And the only time I'm notified is in the case of a real emergency.
Okay. So let's talk about. I'm your guest, and I have checked in. What do you have there for me so that I know I've been to Airbnbs before where I really couldn't figure out how to operate the TV because they didn't leave me anything.
Yes.
What all instructions or
There's
check-in
two places
procedures
for
do you have?
instructions. I love this question. So one is you want to leave as many instructions you can, even when they book. When they book, you want the more information. There is a list of all of the nearest hospitals, the grocery stores.
I hadn't thought of that.
The any kind of entertainment, favorite restaurants. All of that is in two places. First of all, when Evolve books you and they send you all the information, it's all listed there.
Okay.
The code to get in the door. All of the expectations. Hey, when you leave, please load the dishwasher. Take all the sheets off the bed and throw them in the, utility room, whatever.
Okay.
As well as I have a book. So when you walk in, I usually leave it lying on the coffee table. There is a book that has all of that same information. How do you turn on the dishwasher? All the things, expectations, anything, again, hospitals, all of those things. You just want to make things as simple as possible for your guest.
Yeah. It sounds like you've got some good systems and people in place.
Yes.
And Evolve takes care of a lot of that for you so that you're rarely called.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which makes it a very fun strategy.
So those are, so yours are really hands-off for the most part. That's kind of the to-do list. So let's talk about some red flags or some things that we need to watch out for that are like, don't do this or that. And we touched on one earlier talking about regulations, certain cities that don't allow. So that's and you always, I think with your Airbnbs, because I know in the Dallas area, and I don't have one in the Dallas area, you may could speak to this, but I know there was a time that either they talked about forbidding them or they did pass the thing. I can't remember. So if you have an Airbnb in an area and they, change the regulations and laws, and you've got to have a backup plan, a way to pivot.
Now,
and do
sometimes
something
they will
else.
let you be a grandfathered in.
Okay.
If you've already got it up and running, sometimes you can be grandfathered in, and they're like, okay, we're not going to let any new ones open, but we're going to let you keep that. So we've been grandfathered in some areas. There has been a few areas where, like, nope, we're closing it down. Nobody can do that. So thankfully, because we knew the 1% rule, so many people will ignore this rule. We were just simply able to convert it straight from a short-term rental to a midterm.
Oh, okay.
Or a traditional. Let's just talk about a midterm and what's the difference. A short-term rental is typically rented for 2 to 30 days. Yeah. And it's more on the 2, 5,
weekend.
6 days.
Yeah.
But typically it's described as 2 to 30 days. But a midterm rental is 30 days to 6 months.
Okay.
So a lot of the rules will say you can rent something for 30 days. That's the minimum.
Oh, okay.
So then you wouldn't have to jump all the way from a short term to a long term. You could do midterm.
Okay.
Now, a midterm rental is really great. Now, it has to be in a very specific place too. Those do better if they're near in a hospital district, a business district, because those are mostly traveling nurses or just professionals that are going to be in an area for maybe 30, 45 days. And so that's just something to think about.
Okay. I like that. Something I have heard about with the midterm rentals, and I don't know if you can speak to this, it's just something I heard about, was getting in with insurance companies who put families up, if their home has flooded or has had fire damage and they're having to do some repairs.
Absolutely.
They put families up. So getting in with an insurance company somehow and on their list makes a good midterm rental as well.
Yes.
Okay, nice. Okay, so wear and tear. There's always going to be the little, the light bulb goes out, a socket doesn't work, maybe the AC is not working properly, but other wear and tear on the house.
Yeah, again, the wear and tear is a little more than just a traditional because you do have, people coming in and out, especially, and you get to decide on a few things. Like we allow parties. That's something that we allow because we have these big houses with, or not necessarily big houses, but because we have the bunk rooms, we know we're having bigger crowds.
Okay.
And again, lots of bachelor and bachelorette parties. So we allow parties, but you could say no parties if that's something that you want, because the other choice is, do you want pets? Now, we don't allow pets, but some people do allow pets. And so you just have to be aware that because people and their animals, or lots of people are coming in and out on a regular basis, there's more wear and tear. And you can't be stressed out about that. You just have to know that that's part of the cost of doing business.
Right.
Is that your little throw pillows are not, not going to last as long. And I am very middle of the road furniture. You don't want a bunch of cheap furniture that you're replacing constantly.
Okay.
But you also don't want to put in a lot of high-end furniture that you're really going to cry when it gets when some kid marks on it with crayon or it gets torn up. So you want very middle of the road.
Okay. And on that, so you talked about you have boutique, which to me sounds a little higher end, a little luxury. How do you? I know that you've got to make sure you're in a place where the market supports that. And obviously that kind of home I would think would attract a certain clientele versus maybe.
Yeah, well, there is definitely a difference between a boutique short-term rental and a luxury.
Okay.
And I used to think, because I love to stay in luxury Airbnbs. When we travel as a family, because we're so big, we will always stay in and I used to think, I can't wait to get my first luxury short-term rental. But having some boutiques, I thought I opted out of the luxury. Because now let's talk about when somebody's spending $1,000 a night or more, their expectation is really high.
Sure.
And it's very hands-on. There's got to be somebody at their beck and call to fix every little thing, which is what I want when I'm paying a couple $1,000 a night.
Right,
but
sure.
I, as an investor, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to live my life like that. So I've just decided not to have a luxury. So with boutique, it's middle of the road. You don't get. It is a little more costly, so you're not getting the lowest of low tenants, but you're also not getting the luxury. And And you can actually have boutique short-term rentals in not the hood, but it certainly doesn't have to be in a great neighborhood like
Okay.
a luxury does. So I would say, like, I've got a couple that if I was renting them out right here in the Dallas area, they'd probably go for anywhere from about $1,800 a month.
Okay.
As a traditional.
It's a traditional.
But I can bring 5,000-6,000 in a month as a boutique short-term rental.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives a little hint of the difference in short-term
That's
versus
right here in
long-term.
Dallas, Texas. It's gonna be
Right.
All those numbers are gonna be different. What city and state?
Yeah, depending on your market and where you're at, because there's probably areas of Dallas that would not bring in
Right.
that much, and there's, like you said, the luxury areas that are going to bring in a whole lot. They're going to do 5,000 or 6,000 every time somebody stays there.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about if you don't have a management company and you're managing yourself.
Ooh, I don't recommend it. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I don't recommend that. We here at The Rain are teaching you how to be investors.
Mm-hmm.
We don't teach you how to be a contractor for flipping houses, and we're not teaching you how to be a property management company. We're teaching you how to be an investor. And so if you're having to do all these things, then you don't have the time to go out and find your next property.
Yeah.
I want you to own a whole slew of short
There, yeah.
and you're never going to own 5 if you're just bogged down managing the one or the 2 that you have. And so again, something that we say often is it's not what it costs you, it's what it makes you. And so go ahead, don't be too cheap to pay the property management company. Maybe you don't cash flow as much as you want to. Yeah. But you don't have this full-time job taking care of it. Go get another one and another one and another one. And now your cash flow really begins to build.
So now let's take what you're just saying here and let's go back to one of the first things you said in our conversation. Now and later money.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the later money. Because there's some now money, the cash flow, which you may have to give up a little bit to have the management company. Totally worth it for you to have your time to continue buying more investments, getting them renovated, getting them rented out with your thing. But the later money, let's talk about that for just a minute.
That's my favorite part.
That's
my favorite part because they appreciate, and the loan is being paid down every single month that you own it by your tenants that are paying you, and you're getting all these tax benefits. You bought it the right way, hopefully, so now you've got some already instant equity in this, and so those are advantages. And so in just in 10 years, well, let's just say it was a 15-year payoff. Now it's paid for. Now every single penny is cash flow.
Cash flow.
But, well, not every penny because you still have your
right.
But most of it is cash flow. But now you could sell this or refinance this and get cash back. Could be retirement money. You're going to pass this down to your kids when you when you go, and that's an amazing asset. Or assets that you can leave to your family. So that's the most beautiful part of it.
The later money. You just got to hold on to them long enough
yes.
to get that return on the backside of it. Very nice. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about some common mistakes that investors can make. So hopefully we can help you not make these mistakes. So
I think the number one mistake is not buying it the right way. You want to make sure that it meets the 1% rule.
Yep.
You want to make sure that it's an appreciating area. It would be even greater. And you want to buy off-market properties using that golden formula.
Yes.
So that's the very first thing to start out that this is going to be successful. Obviously, you want to make sure that it's not been banned in that area. You want to make sure that it's a good place for a short-term rental. Is it in the right location? Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest mistakes, because this is the fun part, but is over renovating. If you do too much, try to make it, we're not living in it. So we don't need it to be everything that we want it to be. You just want it to be comfortable for your guests. Right. So over renovating, I think, is a big issue.
Yeah, one of the things you always want to think about when you have a rental, short-term rental, what kind of rental, it doesn't matter, is that someday you may want to sell this house. And so you want to make sure that you don't over renovate, so that when you sell it, you can get your money out of it. Yep. And that's another thing that you have to think about when it's time to turn that garage into, if you're thinking about turning it into a bunk room. I wouldn't do that in a really high-end area because I know that when I get ready to sell that house, in a home in a really high-end area, they're going to want their garage.
Garage, sure.
However, if you're in a middle of the road, some of those people, they don't care. They would rather have the extra room in the garage. So you just got to always be thinking about the future.
Yes.
And how your exit strategy.
Yeah, and that's important to have kind of that backup plan in place in the back of your mind. I think another common mistake is not pricing it correctly in the market.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little secret. We always, whatever, I love you, Evolve, but whatever they tell us to rent it for, if they're advising, hey, I think this is going to go for $300 a night, the first thing we're going to do is say, okay, let's do $350. We're always going to push that up a little bit and see how it does. Now, sometimes they're right. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's not booking up. I'm going to drop it $20 or $25. And then if it's still not dropping, I'll drop it back down.
Okay.
But I'm always going to push it because we have found, because we do the boutique and we just have learned some little extra things, we've found that we can usually get more than is recommended. However, then there's also seasons. There's just seasons that you can go higher. And then if it's a lower season, then you want to definitely drop it. And that's something that Evolve will also do for you. They'll keep an eye on it. If all the other short-term rentals are booked up in that area, they'll hike yours up. If they're all open, they're going to lower yours. So because everybody, the company and us, we want it booked up.
Right.
Even if we're not making as much money on it, we want it booked up to make some money.
You're definitely not going to make any if it doesn't rent.
Absolutely.
All right. Another common mistake is trying to do everything themselves. Like you said, the self-managing, taking care of all of the problems. And then, of course, treating it like a hobby and not a business.
It's not a hobby. I mean,
no,
it is a business.
That's when you lose money, is when you don't.
I had a very good friend who had a short-term rental, and I was trying to tell, she was so proud of the fact that she didn't use, she goes, I know, I want to clean it myself. I want to make sure it's perfect. I want to da-da-da. I'm like, girl, that all sounds fun and sexy. But you know what? She closed that puppy down within a year because she was doing it all herself. And so, sometimes we're hard-headed.
Yeah.
Listen, did you just, if you wanted it as a hobby and you just made it feel good, then go for it. But otherwise, get somebody else to do that and make it
and do it yourself. Okay, so she was obviously not cut out for the Airbnb or didn't have her systems in place and the right strategy going on for her, correct? So, okay, who are Airbnbs best for? Who should have an Airbnb?
Okay. Well, I think everybody ought to have an Airbnb if you want to know the truth. But, it is, man, that's a hard question. If you literally have zero time, if you want something that is completely, you never want a phone call, then it's probably not for you. Okay. I mean, I'm just being honest. Okay. If you are just extremely busy and you got a lot of other things going on, just stick to more traditional rentals because that is less phone calls, less stuff you got to worry about.
Yeah. And this is kind of the Airbnbs, I see it as kind of a hospitality. It's something I've actually talked to my oldest daughter. Her degree is in hospitality management. And I've talked to her a little bit about, maybe getting into some Airbnb type business, having a few and running that. So she would be great because that would actually be her job, right? Is not only would she be an investor, but because she is hospitality, she would have the time and energy to put into it. Of course, I would have her get a management company to do, the middle of the night stuff. But the higher income potential, I think, is great.
Absolutely.
If you have systems and right operations in place, it makes it doable to where you can have the now and later money and you're not running yourself into the ground crazy. And that you're willing to adapt, with and have the backup plan in place if you have to. So if you're not willing.
One thing I just also wanted to mention that we haven't really talked about is just remember that when you set this up, that you are going to have to put some more money into it because you have to completely furnish this.
Right.
Every little detail.
The pots, the pans.
Yes, the silverware, all of the things that you would not have to do.
So let's talk, before we close this out, for someone who may be setting up their first Airbnb, what are some items that people might not think about that you've learned, that's really important, we need to have that?
Yeah, okay. Vacuum cleaners and brooms and mops and, can opener. Nothing will frustrate somebody more than not having a can opener. They're ready to, make a meal. I could, another, if I'm just sharing a little bit of horror stories, in this we had to learn the hard way, is some things that have happened is we had a guest stay, and they were going to cook. And when they took the pots and pans out from under the cabinet, they were just nasty. Somebody had just thrown them in the dishwasher dirty. They didn't come out clean, and they just threw them under the cabinet. So now I learned, my housekeeper,
look,
you have to open every single cabinet in this entire house and look at every single thing. We've had sugar one time spilled in a drawer, and so then when the guest opened it up, there was ants all in the drawer. So things can happen, and you can't freak out about it, but you learn from those mistakes, and you're like, okay, and you put a new system in place.
Got it.
Every single cabinet has to be open. Every single drawer has to be opened.
Always extra paper towels, extra toilet paper, all the things.
You want a
do you
closet
provide
somewhere.
shampoo, conditioner, soap, all of the stuff? Okay, coffee.
Absolutely. I've gone to a few that doesn't have coffee. I mean, nobody wants to wake up and not have any coffee there.
This is true.
Definitely, you want coffee and creamer.
And I would say not just a one morning's worth. I have been in an Airbnb where they had enough coffee for the one day and then expected you to go buy, which can be fine if you're staying for a week. But if you're just staying a couple nights and you got to go buy, if it's not a pod kind. Well, even then, you've still got to go buy a whole box of pods. So I love that. Okay. Well, owning an Airbnb can be incredibly profitable. We've talked about that. But only when it's done intentionally, strategically, and with systems in place.
Absolutely.
So this isn't about hype. It's about execution. So if you treat your Airbnb like a business, it can fund freedom and definitely build legacy. So,
and we teach all the details of this in our MasterClass. How to buy these the right way. All of the things that we talked about in more detail. So go get you some of that now and later. Money.
Yes, and click the link below and join the next MasterClass that's coming up to get all the information and learn how to do it correctly the first time, so you don't have to make the mistakes and learn from your own mistakes.
Absolutely.
Because that's not fun. We just want to thank you so much for joining us today. We love these conversations. If this episode helped you, share it with another investor sister who needs the real truth and not the highlight reel of Airbnbs. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss a single episode. And as always, we bless you. Be brave and dream big. Listeners, if you're aiming for financial freedom, dreaming of designing a life you absolutely love, or just curious about how real estate can transform your future, you're in the right place.
Yes, ladies, if that sounds like what you want, our masterclass is the key. It's easy to understand, super straightforward, and packed with all the secrets you need to start investing in real estate confidently and successfully. Why wait to build your dream future? Join us and let us make your dreams a stunning reality.
Just click the MasterClass link in the notes below.
And we can't wait to begin this journey with you.